What's up, future shred lords? Welcome back. Death to the fingers. You're probably wondering where that video is. True story. I was out at a friend's cottage just squaring it away, helping him get it ready for winter and stuff like that. And man, it was like 27, 28 degrees. At the end of September, I live in Canada. Okay, so winter's coming. And that's a good solid 6 months. It sucks. And I was just like, there's no way. There is no way I'm spending all day here in my apartment when I could be out there doing something. And it was awesome. We went on the boat, did a little bit of fishing, had a really killer sort of like steak and baked potato dinner and stuff, although the steak was kind of hard to eat because my mouth is still all messed up, but still it was really nice. It was really, really nice. And so that's what happened. And I ran into somebody who also watches these videos. And he's like, I thought you were making the big video today. I'm just like, yeah, I'm right on it. It was awesome. So, you know, this kind of leads to the nexus of the video. Like, I tried playing guitar this morning a little bit and it wasn't too bad, but it's definitely, it's not ready. Unfortunately, I'm just like, that sucks. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit longer, but the thing is you got to stop and smell the roses. You know what I mean? Like, find joy in life doing something, whatever that is. Now, if I can't play guitar and stuff, I can do other things that'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. Sitting out at the cottage, like this absolutely pristine environment on a beautiful, like late autumn day, you know, when it's 27 degrees out, drinking a beer. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, is it as enjoyable as playing guitar? No, it's not. It's close second though. You know what I mean? And so the moral of the story is that too many people are putting out advice in the 21st century that's like, you know, just be the super go-getter, you know, and listen, work hard, play hard. It's true. You know, healthy body, healthy mind, also true. All of these things are mostly true. But the fact of the matter is that putting yourself on the perpetual grind just leads to burnout. And here's the thing, you're going to find quickly that there's a lot of aspects about life that you can't control. And then all of a sudden you hit a wall or a barrier or it slows you down or whatever it is. And when people have sort of invested all of their focus into this one activity, whatever that activity is, it kind of just messes with them mentally because all of a sudden they lose a step in their stride. They can't pivot, you know, they can't make the move. They can't do the spin move. So that's just it. You gotta learn to sort of operate within the confines that are sort of dealt to you on a daily basis. And that's just it. The other thing was also is I finally finished like an entire song, which is really just 3 songs combined together. And then this morning I was like, you know, I really want to kind of mess around with the master a bit. And that's why I also didn't make the video because my brain's a little fried right now because I was dicking around with it. But I'm like, this kind of weird idea that I had actually worked out amazing. I was like, I can't believe that worked. But it worked out a lot better than I thought. And so with just a little bit of tweaking, I think I finally got it. And that's just it. I've been working away at these songs and stuff and finally got to the end where I did a master, and I didn't really make one. I was just kind of messing around with the process a bit. And the end result was better than what I went in with, because when I turned everything off and then turned it back on, it was just like, yeah. And the other thing was I was worried because I was listening to some actually finished music and I was like, mine doesn't sound as crispy as that. It sounds good, but it doesn't sound like that. And then when I did my own processing thing, and then all of a sudden, of course, boom, there it is. It just worked great. So that's just it. Like, you know, keeping your nose to the grindstone in that sense, you basically get to the finish line and then you feel like you've accomplished something. You can kind of let off the gas a little bit and just be like, enjoy the moment, you know, king for a day or whatever it is. And that's just it. Tomorrow's a new day. And that's how you should really structure your mindset, whether it's playing guitar or doing other things or mastering new skills or getting better at work or managing your life, whatever it is. I was going to walk all this month as well. And I realized the problem with that is that I'd be so focused on the walking thing that by the time November rolled around, and it's going to start to snow at that point, which means walking is just not happening. It's too dangerous because there's some crazy hills and you'll just wipe out and just smash yourself. So knowing my luck in 2025, negative. So I was just like, okay, I got to pivot. So I just fired up the old home workouts, and let me tell you, my body is feeling the pain right now. Seriously, I walked 600 kilometers, more than that this year, just in the summer from May until like the end of September, 600K. And I did 2 workouts. One was 20 minutes, and this is just with like 10-pound weights. Just work up to it, boys. And I'm going to kick my ass like you wouldn't believe. But that's just it, I already knew that was going to happen. I was lulled into a false sense of security. Be like, oh yeah, no, you did a lot. And that's the other thing is if you're stopping to smell the roses, don't get too comfortable, There's a time to let off the gas and just sort of, take a day off and do your thing and just enjoy the moment. And then there's just like, perpetuating a negative cycle there where you're just like, I'm not going to do anything. I still work on music every day. I may not get to play guitar. And let me tell you, all the calluses on my fingers are gone. So when I was playing it, I was just like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Oh, shit. Felt weird as hell too. Oh my God. It's just, I'm going to have to relearn everything for like the next 3 or 4 months after this is all done. It's just crazy. Anyways, the fact of the matter is you kind of got to plan it out methodically and then just kind of, make exceptions to the rule. You know what I mean? When I don't feel like doing something now that I'm 50 and I've have enough life experience, I just don't do it. Life's too short. Now listen, you can't do shit like that if you're going to, if you got real stuff. You know what I mean? You gotta keep up with those commitments. But when you're like, this is kind of a gray area. Is anybody really going to care if I put up the video or not? Probably not. So, you know what I mean? That's just it. It'd be good for me to put up the video. It'd be better for me to put up the video and then play guitar along with it. So it made more sense. But, that's a perfect world situation. But that's just it. We'll do the best we can with the tools that we have and the time that's going on. And I've just got other things on my plate right now. And obviously, not being able to play guitar is just really another opportunity for me to focus on something else and get that done. You know what I mean? I've been dicking around with this album for a couple of years now, so I really like to get it out of the way. Now, a huge part of that was just learning the ropes and figuring shit out, but it is what it is, you know what I mean? I'd like to get this finished, and this morning, I was just like, this is doable. I can actually make something that's comparable to some better recordings that you hear from professional artists. Now, I've heard some recordings. There's this one band, Neo Obliviscaris, I think they're called. It's crazy. It's a really, really out there sort of progressive metal band. But man, their recordings are like some of the most pristine I've ever heard in my life. I'm just like, this is basically perfection of a metal recording. Now you can debate whether the music is your thing, but the production part is just like, wow, that's killer. So you know what I mean? Like, it's not as good as that, but again, I'd need real gear, like outboard analog gear to make something like that happening, and we're a little bit of ways from that. There are other priorities on the list that are way above studio gear, even though that'd be nice, right? I saw this really nice piece of property and I had a dream. It was like 100 acres. It's on a beautiful lake. There's part of the Canadian Shield, that's rock, exposed right down by where the lake is. And then somebody actually put some sand down for like this little mini personal beach. And then 100 acres out in the middle of relatively nowhere, but still close enough to be considered, doable if you had to go to the big city, Kingston or whatever it is. So there's also this little town there. So, you know what I mean? Like, And I looked at it, I'm just like, this is undeveloped land, 100 acres, $500,000. I'm like, if you had a couple $1,000,000, that seems like a pretty decent sort of, you know what I mean? Like situation there, since I already know the law and I can avoid property taxes and all the rest of this stuff. Um, I was like, this would be awesome. So I've kind of stuck my head down. The thing is like it depends on a whole bunch of circumstances. I'm sure I'll do okay in the final sort of stretch, but it's been a bit of a slog, but that's just it. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. I've been working on this legal stuff for like years now, years getting it all set up and sort of tucked away, if you will. And I just kept refining the ideas, like the recording stuff, like refining over and over and over again. And again, in between those periods when I was just like, I'm feeling kind of getting to the point where I'm burnt out. I can't think straight anymore. I just take a bit of a break and then I come back to it and I make it better than what it was before. From the first time I tried it to what I just produced for the most part in this one is so radically different and so much better, you know what I mean, that it's embarrassing, the first draft. But it is what it is. And that's just it. You see what I mean? There's another thing that I think a lot of people are sort of resident to, they're just reticent. That's what I meant to say. Not resident. I was having a huge conversation with AI on the law this morning, and we were using technical terms like citizen and resident a lot. So, of course, I'm going to get resident and reticent mixed up. Yeah, leave your hate mail in the comments. But, people don't want to just sort of take on new tasks and then sort of fail. Like the normal process of just sort of getting your feet wet, doing something, and then just work up towards being more competent and confident in doing this thing, whatever that is. But just the very idea of sucking at something initially is like a huge roadblock for people. So not only can they take a break, not only can they not take a break, so they're constantly obsessing on one thing, which skews your perspective in terms of how much progress you're actually making, right? The other thing is that they get tunnel vision and they don't want to basically, mess with the formula, I guess you could say, and then add new elements into the mix to sort of keep your learning process fresh and, interesting. Once it gets boring, it gets boring. So what the fuck? Right? So I'm not going to make a hugely long video today. It's another nice day out. I was thinking about actually going down by the waterfront and then just hanging out by the marina, watching out over the lake and just sort of watching the world go by, have a coffee or something and just do something mindless like that. It seems like it's been a very, very long time, several years since I did something mindless like that. And I want to take advantage of it. And that's just it. Like me, myself, personally, I feel like I'm growing as a human being out of the shell that I sort of encased myself in for years. And I was just, defeated mentally, defeated spiritually. My body was suffering. And now that I've kind of gone through this transformative process, despite the fact that there's been many challenges this year, I feel like I made like significant progress. And that's just it. All of those challenges didn't beat me down. They just made me tougher as a person and sort of built me up more, right? So now I can actually appreciate the smaller things in life by sitting at the cottage that doesn't belong to me in a place that's more than likely I'm never going to be able to afford. Like you wouldn't believe this place has got to be worth $2 million. Like, listen, it isn't like a $2 million cottage. What I'm saying is this property where it is, and the cottage itself is nice, don't get me wrong, but it's cool. It's rustic. It's like the old cottages. If you've ever been to one of the old cottages where it's like, when you take the junk from your first house and you move it up to the cottage. So you see things there from the 70s, those rugs that kind of spiral in a big oval and whatnot. And like the first generation couch that's like tweed or whatever. It's just like brutal. Like maybe an old CRT TV. That's the cathode ray tube for the kids there, if you know what that is. A VCR. Like they had a VCR that worked and then a whole wall full of old tape movies. And I actually sat down on a chair there and just stared at it for a moment just to marvel at it. You know what I mean? Because that's a part of my life that is just gone. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I mean, I have a whole wall of movies back there on DVD, but I grew up in the VHS era and the whole taping movies and everything like that, even though we couldn't do it because we just had one VHS. Or actually, it was a Betamax initially. We had the Betamax. That's true. And then we moved to the VHS because it became the dominant form. But I think you get the point is that that was just huge everywhere. And so I walked by and I'm just like, look at that. I actually walked in and it's like, there's like 6 movies on one tape because it's like an 8-hour videotape or whatever. It's awesome. It's just hilariously awesome. So, that's just it. Again, there's a classic moment where I was just like, most people be like, walk by and be like, huh, that's cool. I actually took there and enjoyed the moment and sort of thought back to my own childhood and all the pleasant memories that it invoked of me sitting there watching The Terminator, right? And watching Conan the Barbarian, Blade Runner, although I saw that on HBO first at my grandparents' house. Those were the days, kid, when you're like 8 years old watching Blade Runner. That's what got me into movies in the first place. But you know what I mean? It was just great. I just really enjoyed it. And I think that despite all the sort of doom and gloom that I sort of heaped on people, because there's so much negativity in the world with the politics and the direction and whatnot, it's important to also remember that tomorrow's a new day and the sun will shine. And humanity's been through these types of hurdles before, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I can't say that it'll be better or worse. But what I can say is that if you don't give yourself a reason to sort of keep living or whatever, you know what I mean? Like enjoying life, then what exactly are you doing? Should you parse off a part of your mind to be like, yeah, I got to consider the real sort of like heavy duty topics about what's going on and stuff like that. But at the same time, it can be tempered. It can be balanced, if you will, with just the joie de vivre, right? Like just enjoying life. And that's just it. Don't let politics stop you from doing something cool or fun. Spend that money a little bit if you feel like it, you know what I mean? You'd be like, well, that'll put me behind the 8 ball a couple months, but it's not the end of the world. And you get to go to a cool concert with a friend or something like that, and it's a lifetime experience. Stuff like that. Don't go buy a new guitar that drains your account and now you're back down to like 20% of what you originally had. And you're like, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's wrong. But just, be like, oh, this is a cool opportunity and I've got some money saved up and I can just work it a little harder next time to sort of save up more. And there it is. It's stuff like that, making small exceptions to the rigorous sort of constraints that we give ourselves so that we can attain excellence. Just giving yourself a little extra rope there to be like, it's okay to live, man. It's okay to live. And don't feel like you owe anybody anything. You owe nobody nothing. You owe yourself. Live your life. Everything else will kind of fall into place after the fact. Nobody's going anywhere. As long as YouTube's going to be here, we'll still put up stupid videos. It'll be me talking, making videos about music, playing guitar, doing other things. Sure. But that's just it. You know what I mean? I like making stupid videos on YouTube. If I didn't, I would just do other stuff and be like, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's another sort of avenue for me to just be creative and also, connect with like-minded people. That's really what this channel's about. It's not just about music. It was about connecting with like-minded people through music. Now, you don't have to share my political opinions. You don't even have to like my ideas. But just because we think differently doesn't mean that we don't have things in common either. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's the things that we have that aren't in common that sort of bind us tighter than the things that we actually sort of like. You know what I mean? Because we can learn something new from each other And that's also, again, an important sort of distinction that is often sort of overlooked because we like to be siloed into like our echo chambers and just only receive information that we're like, this is approved. And I get it. But that's another one, you know, like you have to sort of know when to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. You have to know when to stand up to evil. You have to know when to sort of engage in your civic duty and strive for the promotion and protection of human rights. You have to, know when to, cut class and hit the cottage and drink a few beers and just play hooky. And you got to find the happy balance, the medium there. And once you start to find that, life actually takes on a whole new meaning. Don't let one thing dominate you to the other. And if it is, then look for solutions. Like if you're working 60 hours a week in a job you don't really care for, find an exit strategy so you can get out of that job, either become an entrepreneur or find another job that you're more interested in. Doesn't matter if you're going to still work 60 hours. I work 60 hours a week doing music and all kinds of other stuff. You know what I mean? It all gets put into the piggy bank one way or another. But that's just it. I don't see it as work. When I sit down and work on this legal stuff, even though it's really not fun, in a lot of ways, I'm learning some sort of insanely important skill that cannot be replicated in any other way, but other than just sitting there and doing it time after time after time, just like playing guitar. Right? So it's not lost on me. And the potential to actually turn that into something that can be very useful to you in terms of financial gain is nearly limitless. So that's my video. I said it was going to be short. Here it is, 22 minutes again. I'm an idiot. It is what it is. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I appreciate every single one of you. Get out there, live your life, do something fun. Live on the edge a little bit and then use that as the fuel to be like, over here in this other one where it's a little less exciting, I got to hunker down and just work a little harder. But when I do, and I'm ready to take that break, I'm going to give myself that break and I'm just going to cut loose and I'm not going to feel bad about it. Mint. See you in the next one.